Greetings and welcome to this vCatchup. I'm live in VMworld Barcelona in Europe. It's my first European VMworld. It's a very interesting experience, very different, and I have a very special guest with me today. And special guest, if you could introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. My name is GS Khalsa, and as of right now, I'm currently not employed, but we're going to be talking about a little bit later, get into some details of who I'm working for, but come Monday, I'll be working in tech marketing for VMware.
Wow, a bit of mystery there. That's good, yeah. Right. And then you give a little hint at the end there, yeah. That's pretty good, man. Yeah. So look, GS, thanks for coming on today. I know you've been really busy with the brown bag stuff, and I think that's what I'd like to do. I've got about 5 or 6 questions that I wanted to go through, but I think I want to really focus on that first of all. So, for you, what does your typical VM world look like, and how has it changed now that you're pretty much part of the V Brown Bag crew, and
right.
So how's it changed for you?
So, my typical VM world is always focused around what can I do at VMworld that I can't do anywhere else. To me, that really is the key for VMworld. And what I mean by that is, in the past, they they started recording sessions and making those available online afterwards. And so, after that happened, I stopped kind of going to most sessions, and not because if there was content that I really wanted to get, or somebody that I really wanted to speak to, I'd go. But otherwise, I just try and focus on things that I couldn't do anywhere else. When they made the hands-on labs available online, I kind of stopped going to labs because, again, I could do that somewhere else unless there was something that I really wanted to get my hands on, really wanted to touch right then. To me, the big thing with VMworld is meeting people, interacting with people. There's tons of people that I've never met before outside of Twitter, and so it's just great putting a face to it. And with the V Brown Bags, the thing that really changed is it's really kind of forced me to do even more of that, in that the V Brown Bags are usually held somewhere near the hang space and the community space at VMworld, so I end up spending even more time in that area, interacting with people, and just kind of helping the Brown Bags be a little bit less of a train wreck than they were the last time.
So a measure of improvement each time, sort of thing. All right. Okay. So what kind of stuff do you do for V Brown Bag? Give us a little bit. So we all know what it is. We all know the great content that it provides to the community and stuff. But tell us about behind the scenes and what goes on behind the scenes.
Well, I mean, my involvement is, for the most part, is very behind the scenes. I've presented a couple of times, so obviously that's more in front of things. But day in, day out, my involvement is I help get the content into iTunes. So if you stream if you subscribe to our podcast in iTunes, then I'm kind of what helps make that happen. I take the raw video, not edit it so much as kind of modify it a little bit so that it'll work in the iTunes format, tag it, and get it posted up into the iTunes stream so that everybody gets to see it. So.
Wow. So, and I guess a lot of people think that just magically happens, but no, there's people behind it doing hard work to get it.
I wish that I could have automated it more, but I've inherited. I kind of inherited it from Nick Marshall for a long time. He was the one. He figured out all the systems and everything for how to do it, and he just passed it on to me. And he's got ideas about how to automate it. I haven't even thought that far. I'm just trying to deal with how it is and making it go.
Yeah. And how long? This might be a continuity area, but how long have you been involved in the V Brown Bag now? Then,
I'm trying to think. I think my original involvement was, I think right after VMworld last year was when I presented for the first time. And then it was just earlier this year that Nick was kind of groaning under the weight of his day job, his family, and writing the Mastering vSphere book. And
we took on a PSO role at VMware. That would be pretty full on its own, let alone anything else. So,
and he just, I saw a flag go up from him on Twitter of, hey, anybody able to help me out with the V Brown Bag thing? And I'd wanted to get involved for a long time, and I threw my hand up really quick, and so it took us a little while to get together, and for him to have for us to have enough time for him to walk me through all the steps of everything that had to happen and how to do it and all the systems and everything. But once we did that, fortunately, I was able to take the load off of him. He's able to focus on his book, on his family, on his job.
Okay, cool. So, like, the next question I was going to ask was going to be around, because you used to be a vMware leader.
Right.
But I'm kind of going to change it now. Sorry about this.
No problem.
But because you're really prevalent in the community, right? We've talked vMug, we've talked vBrown Bag. We've talked about hanging out in the hang space. That's why it's called the hang space, and meeting everyone. So what is it for you about the community? What interests you about being involved in this, and what are you getting out of it on a personal level? I know we're going in deep into who GS is, sort of thing, but I'm just more interested to what motivates people to be here today.
Right. Well, I think the biggest thing for me is I feel like I get so much out of the community. I mean, before I even presented on the just an example, I mean, with the brown bags, before I started presenting on the brown bags, I was using that content to help study for my DCD, for my DCA. All kinds of things that I've gotten from the vBrown bags has helped me out. And so I was just interested in a way of giving something back. As far as the community goes, it really is the same thing. How I kind of found my niche on Twitter is I feel like I've gotten so much out of so many people's blogs. I was just looking for a way to, if I can help other people find that information, all the better. A lot of people think that since I'm a vExpert that I blog, and in actuality, I've probably done 2-3 blog posts in the last year.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Really, where my content, where my niche is I read a ton of blogs and I repost and retweet and comment on things that I find interesting. And I
kind of an aggregator sort of thing,
right.
like taking the best and then making sure it's available for everybody else.
Make sure other people see it.
That's great.
And it's interesting because I've heard from people. One in particular, Jason Nash, is he's gotten away from the idea of having an RSS feed and reading a whole bunch of blogs, and what he does is he just uses Twitter and looks for people like me that retweet the interesting stuff. And
I think
when
we all
sees
do that.
And there you go.
Yeah, I think that's kind of why Twitter's become a real focus now. I mean, I can say the same thing. I don't look at RSS feeds anymore. Right. I get on Twitter and I follow the people who I'm interested in their opinion, and then through Twitter I can find out about these things. So
I feel like that's kind of my niche, and that's where I'm able to contribute. And so, really, it comes back to what I started with. I feel like I've gotten so much from everybody. The community, everybody in the community is so willing to help, open to sharing. I want to give back because I feel like I've gotten so much.
It's a powerful thing, isn't it?
It is, definitely.
Contagious.
Yes, and that too. And spreading that enthusiasm, spreading that willingness to be open and share and help. No,
that's great, man. That's great. I mean, so you're not a vMug leader now, but can you tell us a bit about that? Like, what your experience was as a vMug leader? I guess I'm being kind of vague, but is there something that stood out that for you of not necessarily the journey of why you went to do it, but more like as you were doing it, what you got out of it and how you progressed, sort of thing.
I mean, it really comes back to kind of the same thing. It's an opportunity to facilitate people. Not just learning more about VMware, but helping connect people.
To me, getting people together, bringing people together, and that's kind of what we're doing here at the Hang Space. Stuff is bringing people together who have heard of each other or know of each other on social media and stuff like that, and actually doing face-to-face thing, face-to-face stuff.
And for as a vMug leader, it's even lower level than that. I mean, you're talking to people who whose day job, day in, day out is not just dealing with VMware, but dealing with VMware and Windows and Linux and storage and networking. They've got a whole environment to manage. VMware's a part of that, and so they're in a lot of ways they're not as deep into it as a lot of the people that I find here. And so anything that I can do to help those people make their life easier, I'm excited about that. And the thing that I find nice about the vMug is it is the connection opportunity. I mean, I think the presentations a lot of times can be helpful. We've tried really hard to get good people to present, but to me the value more that I get out of a vMug is talking to people.
The network
meeting the people. And because you never know, when you're going to find a customer, when you're going to find another, a good partner to work with, when you're going to find another user who's doing something similar to what you're doing, they help you out somehow, you help them out. it's the people we know help. That's
that's
the
great,
best way to put it.
No, that's really good. Thanks for that. I appreciate your
sure.
insight into that. Yeah. So the next question I wanted to talk about really was about you mentioned at the beginning there working. It's kind of a dream job, I think, really, like tech marketing for VMware. I mean, that just, are you sure you want to do that? I mean, someone else could do that as well, But seriously, what? Tell us a bit more about what you're doing, and I guess what I'm, I guess I've kind of answered the question saying what prompted you to move from an integrator to a vendor. I mean, it is a dream opportunity, right. I guess, but what made you make that move? Like from a integrator to a vendor.
Well, it's been a long time coming. VMware was really the first technology company that I started working with, and I started working with VMware, I think, in 2006, 2007, ESX 3.0 days.
Same here,
And right after I started working with VMware, I think right after I saw my first vMotion, it was like, wow, this company is doing awesome stuff. I would love to work there. And it's one of the interesting things for me was at that point my scope was so limited. The only thing that since I was a sysadmin, network admin, storage admin, the only thing that I could see myself at that point doing for VMware was internal IT.
Yeah, right.
And it was just, it's interesting looking back on that now that's how small I saw. So, years pass, opportunities change. I was never living in the Bay Area, so it was never really an opportunity to do that. And I've constantly kept an eye out for VMware to see if there was a way that I could contribute. About 3 years ago, I heard of tech marketing. At that point, I hadn't even, and I looked at what those guys do, which is really the title really says it all. It's technical marketing. So you're communicating to people who are more of a technical nature, telling them about the product, how it works, what the features are, how they would use it, things like that. Just getting into those kind of details and giving it at a level that a technical person is going to appreciate it, and it's going to answer what they need. So I heard about that, and I was like, that to me is if I could do that job, if I could qualify for it, that's what I want to do, because the idea of evangelizing and sharing VMware enthusiasm and helping people understand it is, I can't think of anything better. So when the opportunity presented itself, I jumped on it. It was cool, just made sense.
Sounds good, man.
Yeah.
Sounds really good, yeah. So, and do you mind, that shift from it being integrated to a vendor? Does that does that phase you at all? Do you have any trepidation moving to a vendor space? Or?
I think if I was moving to a vendor other than VMware, I might feel, odd in some way or another. But it's really VMware. I just feel like I've known VMware for so long. I know I already knew a bunch of the people. I already knew a bunch of the people that were on my team. I really think it's a nice shift. Being a partner, being an integrator, it's just a difference. It's a step on the journey. Well, it's not even a step on the journey. It's just another path on the journey. So,
I think we have to be philosophical about these things as well. Think about our direction. I was talking to Scott Lowe before, and talking about our direction and where we're heading, and having that blue sky. It's important to, to stand back and sometimes and just think about, well, where's it going and where's it heading?
Right.
I think it's important stuff. So next question really is about, what products are you focused on then in this? We've talked about what you're doing, but what are the products that you're actually focusing on?
Right.
In tech marketing?
So even in my integrator days, one of my favorite things to focus on was SRM. Was and to a lesser extent, I was also focusing on some EMC products, so I ended up doing a bit with Abamar and stuff like that.
Okay,
And the thing that's been nice is the tech marketing area that I ended up fitting into is dealing with that same stuff, dealing with SRM, dealing with VDP, VMware Data Protection, and also doing some of the other availability disaster recovery stuff, the HA, App HA, things like that. So so SRM's been, but SRM is really one of the things where my passion really lies.
I have to agree with that one. I did quite a lot of SRM work a few years back, and full implementation for for an enterprise, and like it's pretty amazing stuff. I mean, that's how I got involved with we're talking to Mike Laverick and stuff like that, and getting that information from him.
His book was one of the first.
Definitely.
The first install I did, I was like, I have to have that book because.
Yeah, I think Mike has that effect on everybody, doesn't he? Like what he publishes, like kind of becomes second nature to you.
Yeah.
So
and it's. I mean, SRM is. If you haven't ever used SRM, I recommend do a lab on it, do a demo, something, because the first time that you use it and you do like a test recovery and it works, it's like your first vMotion. I mean, that's the way that it was for me. It's like, wow, this works.
And you get a report to tell you how well it worked and within the time frame that it worked. We did in this enterprise, we actually did a test lab implementation, and like showed them how it worked and showed them the like response time and how long it took to like remount the LUNs and all this sort of stuff. And like the organisation looked at that in the end and said, right, how do we do this? Where do we go from here? Because we're ready to go with it.
Right.
They'd tried to do DR for like 10 years, using bare metal recovery, and like the recovery time was like 5 days or something crazy like that. And then we put it down to like an hour and 40 minutes, and they're like, yep, okay, we're going to do this.
Yeah.
Don't care what it takes, we're going to do this. So it's pretty powerful stuff. I think it's enabled a lot of organisations to take DR seriously and actually be able to say, right, we can have a realistic DR plan.
Right.
Big game changer.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, interesting stuff. So next question then is just about your home lab. So GS, do you get your hands on the tools? Have you got a home lab?
Well, it's going to be interesting. So I've got a lab on my laptop right now. Mm-hmm. So I've got kind of the whole nested thing going on. And I played around with a little bit of the different storage options and things like that within my home, within my laptop. But to be honest, one of the things that I really valued about the integrator that I worked for was I had access to a really nice lab at my office, and it was basically mine. I mean, other people in the office used it, but by and large, it was mine to play with.
Nice.
And I had a UCS chassis. I had a couple of C-series blades.
That's
I had
amazing,
a couple of NetApp SANs, fiber channel.
Everything.
I mean, I had, it was a really nice setup. So.
And someone else was paying the power bill as well.
Exactly, and I didn't have to. And I didn't have to listen to it either. So.
The noise.
So I don't know the details of what my lab is going to look like with VMware, but I imagine it's going to be somewhat similar. I imagine at VMware I'll have access to probably that much kit and more. And so the thing that's going to be interesting is just kind of getting an idea of, since what I'm going to be doing going forward isn't so much getting ready to go on site with a customer and do an integration, it's more kind of playing around with the product. I'm just going to have to see, does the VMware lab fit for that? And if it doesn't, then I'm going to be looking at building out my own home lab and creating a kit. And So.
Cool. Well, that's good stuff. Thanks for that. I appreciate you sharing the information. So last question really was just I heard that you're running your own podcast.
You've heard correctly. So I'm really close. Probably within the next 2 weeks of kicking off a new podcast.
Wow. You're a busy man.
As if I didn't have enough to do.
V-Brown Bag, new job, podcast. Tell us a bit more about the podcast and what does it entail? What's it about?
So the name of the podcast is the Virtualization User Podcast as a Service. VPAS. And I'm kicking it off with Chris Wall and Josh Atwell.
Oh, great.
So we're all, the three of us are kind of going to be co-hosting it.
Oh, brilliant. That's good there. So you've got a group of people together and that's pretty good. That's a good way to do it.
We're going to be aiming to release a show every week, and the focus of the podcast.
Weekly, Wow, that's great.
So the focus of the podcast is going to be on VMware users, or really virtualization users. Though, to be totally honest, at this point, all of my interaction is with VMware. Who knows, at some point maybe we start getting Hyper-V users or KVM or whatever. But we wanted to keep it focused on users. So experiences they have, problems they've had, how they've solved them, issues they've dealt with, and giving people another place to prepare themselves to potentially speak at VMUG, speak at VMworld, things like that, get on the brown bags, kind of a stepping stone, help people, help people come out of their shell a little bit and understand that users, other users are really interested in what users have to say.
Yeah. So giving them a platform kind of thing that they can talk about it and get some exposure to, like kind of not necessarily public speaking, but a kind of idea where you're presenting something to an understanding
just
audience, and then
and understand that the audience out there doesn't bite. I mean, everybody is, all of those other people out there are really interested in the content, and they really want you to succeed. So, that's what we're aiming for. Next 2 weeks, keep an eye out on Twitter, vupaas.com, and
excellent. That's great, cool. Yeah. So like you talked about the kind of topics and stuff. I mean, what kind of gave you the inspiration for it? What what was your light bulb moment where it was like, I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do, sort of thing.
It kind of comes back to what we were talking about earlier on about the community, and I listen to a boatload of podcasts. I subscribe to over 60 podcasts. It's gotten to the point where, I just love the format. I love how I can absorb that content. And I've gotten to the point where I have to listen to all the podcasts that I listen to at double speed because otherwise,
get through them,
I couldn't get through them. And so I've wanted to, ever since I started doing that, I've wanted to do a podcast of my own. And it was just one of those light bulb moments. I don't remember if it was in the shower or when I was driving, whatever. It was just kind of like a eureka thing of, I could do not a VMUG podcast, but that idea, take a user-focused podcast and run with that. And it's taken me a long time to get to where I have shows recorded. I really just need to do a little bit of editing and get them posted. So it's taken me a long time to get here. I've had encouragement from you.
Post-process is a hard thing,
Had a lot of encouragement from you in doing it. I've had a lot of encouragement from Mike Labrick.
He gave me a lot of encouragement as well. I think for me, for the podcast format, the idea was that you go to VMworld US and you'd see how mature social media was and how people were interacting over social media, and then I'd go back to Australia and it kind of wasn't quite there.
Right.
And so for me, the idea was, let me try and localize some of that. Let me get some bigger names of people like yourself, important public people, sort of thing, get them to come in and talk a bit, and then give that exposure locally within Australia. So, I've done some interviews with VCDXs that are local in Melbourne, those sort of things. So try and get that right mix so that it shows people locally that, hey, I can get involved in this community, I can contribute to it, and then I can become kind of a V-Rock star, similar to what you're talking about there with the user focus, and about talking about giving them the tools so they can say, hey, I can maybe make a prezzo out of that and then go and speak at a VMUG sort of thing, that kind of concept. So it's great to hear other people trying different ways to do that as well, because I think I did a Geek Whisperers the other day, and there we were talking about the localization of social media and that concept of building it up locally so that you can build your own rock stars and have your own community group locally, and it's a long rocky road. It takes a long time to build, but after 2.5 years myself, I'm kind of feeling that I'm getting to this point now where we're not struggling to get community presentations at VMUGs. We've got a good group of people lined up now. We're not in that position anymore, and it means then we can focus more on the content and the more important things,
And that's awesome, because I find as a VMUG, now former VMUG leader, but as a VMUG leader, one of the biggest challenges is getting users out there to speak. And I understand it in a way, because I think to some extent IT people, on average, obviously not all of them, but on average, your average IT person is a little bit more introverted, a little bit more shy.
Like that. I've been there. I'll openly admit that. It's only through being a VMUG leader and taking on that challenge, and then being like, hey, do you know what? It's hard work, but do you know what? I've grown. I've become somebody else. I've learned these skills. I've learned this just through experience. That's what we're here for. That's what life's all about. Sort of thing,
and I just love the idea of putting. The best way I've put it is, I think Scott Lowe coined the blog post phrase, but I've heard it a couple times before as well, is putting the U back in VMUG. Users are really what makes a VMUG, and it's users stepping up and just sharing a little bit about their experiences. It doesn't have to be a formal presentation. You're in a room with a whole bunch of people who are all in the same boat as you, in one way or another, and there's people that have had the same problems you have, people that are dealing with the same challenges going forward. The more that everybody can share, really, the better we'll all be.
Yeah, no, that's great. We're all going to benefit from it. So yeah, no, that's great. That is GS. Thanks for your time, Matt. I really appreciate you coming on to the.
Yeah, thanks, Craig. I appreciate being here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problems. And let us know when your podcast is out and stuff, because obviously I'd be happy to promote it and stuff like that.
Definitely,
So,
I will do
thanks,
that.
Man. Yeah, thanks
Thank
for
you.
your help. Appreciate
Yep.
it. Yeah, thanks. Yeah.